So in previous videos, we've been hyper focused on the interior of this FJ Cruiser, specifically in the rear cargo area. In the first video, we got this snazzy little light right here that actually disconnects to this magnetic base. We also changed out the old dome light bulbs for some amber LED ones.
Added these bougie little rock lights.
And in the last video, we added these MOLLE panels to the rear windows, both on the driver and the passenger side, to just help with some organizational stuff. So in this video, we're gonna be adding a rear door folding table, but it's not really what you think. We are gonna be doing this kind of DIY style with something we found, of course, from Amazon, with a little bit of stuff that we've had around here. Let me show you what I'm talking about. So as I was looking for a folding rear table for the FJ Cruiser, I noticed that there are so many out there and they're a little over my budget until I found this. This is a tailgate MOLLE panel system for F-150, and when I bought it, it was only $21. So I was like, you know what? I could probably make this work. Now, all of the stuff that comes in that little F-150 kit is going to be unused. So the brackets on the end of the tailgate, one of the little MOLLE panels, and probably a lot of the hardware, but we're going to see if we can make this thing fit. So here is kind of what we are working with. There are two panels. It would have been ideal to use both of the panels that looks like this, but unfortunately, they wouldn't be able to overlap with each other in a way that I was hoping for it to work. So we're gonna be going with these two panels. And I also kind of like the idea of having a little circle right here. Maybe we'll kind of talk about why that is a little bit later. But this kit comes with instructions, which we are definitely not going to use. It also has some little bungee straps that we can use for the MOLLE paneling. It's got the hardware, and it's got some other little MOLLE panel stuff. There's some hook and loop Velcro, and then some little foam blocks, and some little plastic clips or little D-rings that you use the hook and loop stuff for. We can put all that aside for right now. So the first thing we need to do is actually get some measurements here. So let's measure how long the rear door of the FJ Cruiser is. So the space that we have to work with is from this corner to this corner, and it's going to be about 42 inches. And we also want to kind of keep our parameters within this spot right here, which will kind of give ourselves a little under 12 inches, maybe about in between 11 and 10 inches there. So let's check our panel and see if these dimensions match up. All right, so our first hurdle, it's a little too long. I even held it up there and the door won't even close. So we are about 1.5 inches too long. Now how this thing kind of goes together is this piece with the circle cut out is going to overlap this piece, and there are pre-drilled and threaded holes in each of these little slots that the hardware will go through. Now, on a good note, we're right in the sweet spot of how long the table or the tray will be, and this is about a little under 9 inches. We'll just call it 9 for the sake of this argument. So to overcome this obstacle, what we're going to have to do is we are going to have to shift the overlaying piece over until we can get into that sweet spot of the appropriate dimensions. And so 42 inches, that's going to be a little too short because we kind of want it to span the entire way. So if we go back to maybe this slot section right here, that puts us at exactly 42 inches. But with that becomes, looks like we have a little bit of an issue here. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Our threading pattern does not match up. We got a good one right here in the absolute middle, but then we're not lined up here on the top portion. We're not lined up down here. Get out of the way of the shadow. Not lined up here very well on the bottom, but it looks like we do kind of have some little middle sections matched up. So another issue is there was a pre-drilled slot right here for us to put a side screw in to get a little bit more dexterity, as well as on the top side. So what we're going to have to do is we can go ahead and use that one to kind of maybe hold everything together. And then I think what we'll do is we'll bore out this hole a little bit larger, bore out this hole a little bit larger. That one should be okay. And then we're going to have to drill out a spot on here and a spot on here. Now before I start doing any drilling and damaging all the things, I want to make sure that this actually looks like it's going to fit properly. So I went ahead and just put the center screw here on the middle to kind of hold it in place. So that way we can hold it up and just kind of do a little test fitment. And so if I put the corner right up in the corner and the corner over there, you can see that we've got a pretty good little fitment right there. I think that's gonna work. So I removed the circle little piece. I don't know, I guess we'll just call this circle piece. I don't know. Anyway, circle panel. And let me show you what I did. I kind of colored in with a little pencil the spots that I need to bore out, and then I also colored right here the little section that I'm going to need to drill into to get the corner pieces or the edge pieces to attach to. All right, so with the combination of an actual metal drill bit, a little step drill bit, and a Dremel tool, we were able to achieve something like this. Now, it is not pretty by any means, and I kind of missed a little there, but all that's going to be covered up. So we bored out the hole here, we bored out the hole a little bit there. We also added a hole right there at the top and a hole at the bottom. After I kind of do the fit and finish for everything and make sure it is working, I'll go back and I'll hit this with a little bit of black paint so that way we don't get any rusting in there. So hurdle number 1 has been jumped, and now we're going to put these bolts and washers into place, but we now have hurdle number 2, which is how do we fasten the screws into these 3 and also the ones on the side, because if you'll notice there are little nuts that have been welded on the underside, so that way you can get a good fitment and don't have to worry about nuts. So we had to go and find a couple, and I just got a bunch that I had lying around from Ace Hardware. So I got a bunch of just these locking nylon washers that fit the actual threading of the screws that came with the kit. And so now it's just a matter of putting all of these on. All right, check it out, y'all. That's pretty solid. You don't hear any rattling. Here's what it looks like underneath. We have the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 screwed in right there, and then that's the factory one there. And that is a pretty solid construction, if I don't say so myself. Now, hurdle number 2. I said at the beginning, this is going to be a folding table on the back of the FJ Cruiser. So how are we going to do that? Well, let me show you. And that is with these folding hinges here. So essentially what we're going to be doing is we're going to be attaching these hinges on the back of our tray here, our MOLLE panel, and then we're going to eventually attach the hinges to the door of the FJ. However, there is a slight difference than the original design for these. Originally, these are supposed to hinge up like that, and so you have a tray that sits on the top, or a shelf that sits on the top, and then you just pull the bracket here or pull the little lever to release it, and it goes back down. We are actually going to be doing the reverse. We are going to have it set up to where the bracket is upside down, so it's going to be attached to the table like this, and we'll pull down the table like so. Now, why are we going to do that? Well, the FJ Cruiser, where I have it mounted, is a little bit too high, and I don't want to be like weird holding things up there. I want it to be more at a workable level. So that is what we're going to go with. So the next hurdle we need to jump is this one. So when you look at the panel underneath, it is a perfect fit. These are the 8-inch shelf hinges. So how this is going to work is we're going to have our hinge mounted right here. And then when we want to pull the table down, we'll simply just pull the table out like this, and the hinge will slide and move, and this part will be connected to the door while this stays obviously connected to the panel. Now, there are a couple spots, let me show you. There are a couple spots that will actually fit. It is kind of really hard to tell. Some of the holes actually line up, like this hole lines up, and the back hole right there lines up. I need to make sure that this lip right here is not going to be too much of a hindrance when we're opening and closing the panel. Just as I thought and predicted, we were going to have an issue with the little lip right here on the back, so you can see kind of right there. So basically what I'm saying is this little bracket isn't going to be able to work because we can't open and close it because of how close it is here. So for instance, if I were to straight up attach the bracket here and here to the door, which is what this little piece of scrap wood is representing, it's just representing the door and what we're attaching it to. The way that we have this oriented, it will not function properly because of the back little lip here. The solution, I'm thinking, is I'm going to need to have some sort of spacer here, and I think I know what might do the trick. So a while back I got some of this ABS plastic, like the cutting board material, because I was doing a project for my kayak. But anyway, this is 1/4 inch. These are 2 sheets, and so it's 1/4 inch. So I'm hoping that maybe I can use one of these sheets as a spacer and then use the other sheet as maybe a backing for the inside door, just to give a little bit more surface area to attach to. So I think I'm going to measure up a couple little pieces, cut them out, and do some little test fitting to see if that'll actually do the trick. So I cut down the 4 little pieces that I needed. They were 3.5 by 1.5, I believe, inches. And then now what I've done is I've just taped them together because I'm going to line them up here. That's kind of the idea here. I'm going to measure out and see where the holes would go, and then the tape is so that way it holds them together, and I can just do a drill through, boonk, boonk, and then boonk, boonk. So we got the left little stack drilled and the right stack drilled. These are the bolts and the nuts that we're going to be using, and I'll also be using the washers that came with the kit as well, just to get a little bit more surface area and give it a little bit of grab on there. But we'll need to do a kind of a test fitment over there with our little wood piece. All right, let's see if it clears. Oh, not quite, y'all. It's catching right there. So should we go 2 of these plates? Or should we maybe see if a couple washers will do it? Because we just need, oh my goodness, just a touch. Just a touch. All right, so here it is. I think we found the winning fitment. We have the ABS plastic piece here. And I don't know if you can see, but I got a little washer and then a bigger washer right there. So watch as I release the latch. As we slide it through, it just misses right through there. So that is the perfect alignment. Now, you're probably maybe seeing or wondering why this is like kind of hard to move right there. Well, that's because whenever I move it, there is some scrubbing because I got a little too close. Right there, you can see there's kind of some scrubbing, but after usage over and over and over again, that'll wear down and it'll become a lot smoother. So I'm not too worried about that. Bracket number 2. Same setup with the double washer and the plate. And we got clearance. All right. So now it's time to open this thing up and pop the trim panel off the back door.
Popping off the rear door is a pretty simple process. It's just a matter of moving a couple little screws behind some covers and then just pulling and popping pins. Make sure that back window is open to be able to get it off. And here's just kind of where the little pin locations are, those little trim panel clips. So now we're getting ready to figure out where to drill the holes onto that rear door trim piece. And what I've devised here is I put some blue painter's tape down to the back side of the brackets, and I'm just going to mark and poke little holes into where I'm going to drill, and then we'll flip the panel over to then find where we need to drill into the actual panel.
There. And there. Now what this is going to do is this is going to allow me to know exactly where the alignment is for mounting this thing to the trim panel. And when I flip this over, I'm going to then tape down the other sides of this to the trim panel on the rear door, and then hopefully it'll be in the perfect alignment to be able to drill those pilot holes, connect it all together. We'll see. I went back and forth and just pinched here, then pinched there, and then pinched there, and just back and forth, back and forth. And I think I've got it right where I want it. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some more tape, and I'm going to tape the tape down, tape that tape down, and then peel back the panel, and hopefully the tape stays in place so that way I can drill those pilot holes. All right, moment of truth to see if I even know what I'm doing. All right, so I'll pull that taut, and I'll pull that taut. I mean, it's already kind of, maybe I'll do this. I'll put a little extra tape here. Let's do that. Pull it taut, and then tape. Boom. I like that. I like that. Now this side, oh, what a booger. Pull it taut. Just realized the microphone was attached the entire time, and I was not wearing it. So I'm going to go ahead and send it. I hate doing that, but I'm going to go ahead and send it. And I'm going to drill the holes out for each of our mounting points. And then I'm going to make sure that the bolts actually fit through the holes. Wish me luck. So we got the holes drilled out, and just it's a matter of just revealing the damage. There it is. You know, not too bad if I made a mistake, but hopefully, man, fingers crossed, hopefully they're in the right spots. That's what you do when you DIY, baby. You just hope and pray and send it. So we got a few things staged right here. So I have the bolts that are going to be holding this whole apparatus in place, and these are 1.25 inch little bolts that I had lying around, and it just so happened that I had some nylon locking little nuts that fit with them. And if you're a DIYer, you're going to have some things that are just lying around. So that worked out perfect for us. And I have the washers that we're going to use for that. I have the dual washer system here with the back plate on this end and also on that end. And then on the flip side, I have the washers and nuts, and you can't see over here, but washers and nuts in the back plate on that side as well. So I think we're ready.
The process of attaching this MOLLE panel folding table thing is a pretty tedious one. And it probably would have gone better if I had a second set of hands, but basically it just took a lot of finagling back and forth and fidgeting and getting these nuts and bolts and washers and plates and everything in the right position. And finally, we get it locked in. And let me show you what it looks like.
So this side is basically perfect. So we're going to be able to put that plate in place right there, but we're probably going to have to trim up a little bit of this with our Dremel tool. No big deal. It'll fit basically flush right there. However, the issue we were having over here is we're a little tight to this little plastic trim piece bracket thing. So no issues right here. However, this issue is pretty apparent. We can't get in there at all whatsoever. So what I'm going to happen to do is I'm going to have to come in with the Dremel tool and just notch out this little section right there. And then I'm going to leave this, and then I'm going to cut, not cut this, but I'm going to cut our piece of plastic in half essentially, and put the bottom portion down here and the top portion up there, and then just rely on the surface area of those two pieces, and I think it'll be just fine. All right, we've carved out the little plastic molding right there with pristine accuracy, as you can see. I've already gone and put the plates in here. Pay no attention to why that one is crooked. It just happened when I was tightening it down. So we have the plate, the little plastic plate right there, the little backing to get some nice rigidity. And then on the same area over here, it looks a heck of a lot better. We've sanded down this little ridge because it had some over here, but sanded down this little ridge, got our plate backing on there, and we're all set to go. Now, you may be wondering, you probably didn't even notice this, what in the world are these little bungee things located there? And also here, quite curious. Well, let me show you. So the situation that we're going to run into is quite a precarious one. Two major issues with this design and this setup. There is no sort of locking mechanism when it comes to holding this MOLLE panel upright yet. I'm still letting a few things roll around in the old conundrum up here. So what we've devised is, for right now, let's see if I can kind of show this. I have just drilled in a couple holes and used the provided bungee cord that came with the MOLLE panel just to attach to the corners, and you can kind of see it's just holding it in place. So it's real simple as just sliding it over the nut on either end, and this will be easier once it's attached, obviously, to the rear door. And then, like I said, from here you can kind of watch. So this is like upright with just the slightest little bit of movement, which is a good thing. She comes down perfectly, and now this is completely locked in place, which is also a good thing. And then when we want to put it back up, here we go. Just click both of the little switches and release it, and it goes back into position. And then from here, we put the bungees back on. Again, it's going to be a lot easier, and I might even put like a little loose pull tab on each one, just a blah blah blah, put it in place like that. However, issue number two, this might be a mod killer for some of you, and I'm gonna have to see if it's gonna be a mod killer for me. But you see what I'm saying? So the issue that we're having is, you can obviously tell it's gonna be some road noise, but I'm gonna try to show you why it's making that road noise. Let's see if I can get this camera angle here. This is probably gonna be difficult to show, but I'll try to do my best. So One of the mechanisms that's allowing for this little shelf arm to work is this little arm here, and it is, I think this is a rivet, I don't know, but it's bolted to the other side, allowing it for it to slide up and down. And then watch this. It is loose in place because it wants you to be able to slide it pretty easily up and down. And the same thing is the same case down here for this part. So solution, no solution. Just deal with it. Just deal with the road noise, or have it locked down into place as you're traveling. You can kind of see what I'm talking about here. These little arms, as they're slid up into these positions right here, they are pretty loosey-goosey, and I don't know, other than like maybe trying to expand these out to where they're not sliding back and forth this way, but they still might slide up and down. I don't know if that would be the case, but I want it to be different. A little rage there, sorry. And so this is kind of what we're going with right now, and we'll just deal with the road noise and see how much it irritates us. So let's go ahead and transition now, and let's put this guy on the back of the FJ and see how she looks. All right, here it is in all its glory. What do y'all think? I think it turned out pretty good. However, the designers of the FJ made an aesthetically big boo-boo when it comes to this back door. They were trying to get this little curvature action, and I don't know if you noticed, but we are not on any sort of elevation here or any sort of slant. This is in a flat garage, and when we take this little table down, oh boy, I don't know if your eyesight is as good as mine. That's not exactly parallel. And so if we try to put something on here, like I barely push that, we're getting some pretty significant slippage. This is a 90-degree little bracket, and I'm kind of looking down through here, and it's pretty flush with the door, but the door like tilts out a little bit. So it's like if I wanted to fix that, I would have to put a few more washers on this end to get it to jet out a little bit, and then raise this up, I guess, like a dang inch or something to get it up here to make it even. Let me see real quick. How ridiculous would it have to be? So right now, it's terrible. The bubble's all the way over here. In order to get it level, dog, what? Surely that's not, okay. Dude, that is ridiculous. Look at the difference there. Do y'all see the difference there? In order to get it level, that means I would have to bring this thing down further. Look at this. Dude, that is a difference of like 8 inches on that side to get it level. So we're gonna need to be maybe thinking about some things when it comes to this setup. And I'm probably gonna have to come up with another video idea on how to fix this. Another issue is there's a lot of holes in here. And I think I would rather maybe having some sort of solid platform, because I do a lot of like fish rigging and fishing kind of stuff, and so like hooks and junk are just gonna fall through here. But do you guys remember that little ABS plastic that I have? So I think what I'm gonna do is maybe cut some sections of that cutting board plastic and just maybe lay them in as little inserts here and here, and that would solve that purpose. But I just don't know about these brackets and their potential noise making. It doesn't sound as bad. I mean, I don't know how that sounds on the mic, but it just doesn't sound as bad as it did when we were just holding it there. I don't know. I think it's just going to come down to me testing it a little bit and figuring out how things are going to work. This hole, I got some good ideas for this hole. I was thinking maybe when it's in the upright position, tucking in some little wet wipes or maybe some paper towels and things here, so that way it's like easy access pulling them out. And then when we have the table down in table position, that's a perfect trash can for just like food bits. So if I'm cooking something here, cutting some stuff up, whatever, my wife would laugh at that because I don't really cook a lot. But if I am doing some kind of preparation, or if somebody else is using it, having a trash bag maybe attached somehow here, just toss it in, little mini trash bag, pull out through here. I think you guys can kind of see it. That would look pretty cool there. But you know what? What do you guys think? I like it a lot. I'm gonna go 7 out of 10 because $21. $21. And then it was like $10 for the brackets. I had the hardware already laying around. The downfalls are it makes a little bit of noise. I'm not a huge fan of my secure system here. I do like that it locks. That's pretty nice. But the holes I'm going to have to address. And then the slant. God, it's terrible. But I do like the MOLLE panel situation. I like having the hole here for like paper towels and stuff. But I'm going to have to seriously consider some further modification. I don't know if these are still going to be available at $21. That's what it was when I bought it. I'll leave that link there, and maybe they might pop up in a different fashion, if you just kind of keep an eye on it. But I had all the hardware. It was all included. So for a grand total of $30, I mean, you get that. So thank you so much for watching me rig my ride for my adventure, one mod at a time.